Hello, everyone. We are switching up the podcast yet again. It just becomes more chill and more chill every single time. But I'm trying to find the best little angle. Currently recording this on my computer and trying to crop that out. But I wanted to just do a little 2024 recap with you guys. I started this podcast for a class assignment in September, somewhere in there last year. And I was at a very, very different place in my life just a year ago, which I think is insane. And it's crazy how much a year can affect like where you are in your life. But also something that's so cool. But I just wanted to kind of go through a year recap of 2024 as a year for me, and then share some of my goals for 2025, and just put them out there because I'm gonna work really hard to make sure that those are achievable goals for me in the new year. And yeah, I just have been doing a lot of reflecting recently, and just like things that I want to continue to grow on, and I felt it on my heart to share, so I'm gonna do that. But yeah, 2024 I feel like every year just keeps getting better, which is so incredibly good, and just shows the power of God in all of our lives and the glory that he is just trying to continue to. He's good and he's faithful to all of us. And you might go through like hard times in the year or in your life, but you always will come out on top. And I just think that that's such an incredible thing to be thankful for. And obviously everyone has different situations, but I'm just very grateful for this last year and how it's shaped, hopefully, the future going forward. But in January, I feel like I haven't shared this maybe in my like where I was going after post-grad, but actually I feel like I should rewind. I'm going to pause. Before I do that, if you guys are new here, my name is Molly. I just recently graduated from the University of Montana in May, and I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina for a post-grad job, and I've been living here for about the past 4 months. But yeah, welcome to Molly in Missoula. I feel like I can't call it that anymore because I don't live in Missoula, but I do think that that is like really the place that truly made me who I am. So feel like we're gonna keep it around for a while. But to jump back into 2024, January, I didn't really know where I was gonna be. I'd already signed my offer letter in August for the company that I returned to, but they didn't have like any start dates for us, and so I was just trying to see if there's other options that I could just explore a little bit deeper and go into, as I just wanted to have a plan. I'm a huge planner, and I like to have as much as possible planned out as I possibly can, and not having a start date to move across the country was something that I was really struggling with. So yeah, I was keeping my options open and just applying to different jobs when I saw them that piqued my interest and were something that I would be passionate about doing and following through with. So I was applying to different jobs. At the very beginning of January, we went to Frisco, Texas to watch UM not play so great in the national championship, but still make it and play in the national championship, which was so much fun. I got to go with James, Dom, and UM's brand ambassador, Emma, or content manager, social media manager. I don't know exactly what her title is, but she is so fun, and it was just really fun to be able to hang out with all of them and the marketing team and just a ton of different people from UM, and go to Frisco to cheer on the Grizz. I got to see Brooke and Ben and a ton of other people that I hadn't seen in a really long time, so that was such an incredible way to start off the year. And I was working in Missoula at an internship at Submittable. It's a nonprofit grant management software company, and I was interning in their marketing department. So that was taking up a bunch of my time before school ramped back up. And then once school started going again. I just was taking my last classes that I needed to graduate, and just trying to enjoy it literally every second, which I think I've kind of brought into my like post-grad life, and where I've like taken my life since then, of continuing to just always have this like mindset of wanting to just be very grateful for every experience, and then also just live as many experiences as I can, because why not? You only live once, and you should just do as much and meet as many people as possible while you're here as you possibly can. We're having some focusing issues. Okay, we should be back and better. But yeah, just living, having fun, going to different trips, as many as I could. But we went to Utah, did the whole route around Utah, just camping around, not backpacking, but like packing in and out of campsites. And that was so much fun. We went to Seattle to see Kojo with my older sister Emma. Me, Anne, and Kyle went and just did like a weekend. Pretty much just drove there, stayed one night, and drove back the next day, and it was so much fun. And yeah, through this time, I was applying seriously to one other job besides the one that I have now, and going through the interview process, and that was, it was a job with my sorority that I had always wanted to just look further into, and without having a start date and just kind of like scaring myself a little bit, I was making myself really nervous about what the possibilities of just things falling through were. And so I was applying to this job, and I'm like super passionate about education and like leadership development, and I think it's such a cool thing that college allows you to do. And that's one of the reasons I am where I am, is because of college leadership and having those opportunities. And so that was one of the main parts of the job. But some of the parts just were not things I was passionate about, and I think I was trying to just fake certain passions for those things. But yeah, I made it through the final round of interviews, and I was really, really torn of what I was going to do if I got a job offer for this, because it would be making a significant less amount of money, and also just I would have been living at my parents' house this year, and just a lot of different avenues of what my life would look like right now. But yeah, I ended up, I did my final interview, and I had international business class directly after my interview, and I went to call my dad because we were going to talk through it, and I had a little bit of a break, and I just started sobbing, and I was like, I cannot go to class right now. I was sobbing, and if you know me personally, I don't really cry or get that emotional, and I was just, like, I couldn't stop crying. I was so confused, and I just didn't know what to do, and my heart was just, I didn't know what the answer was, and my dad's like, you should never cry over, like, life, like, everything will work out in the end, and he was right, but I was just so stressed about everything and wanted to have an answer of what I was doing and what my life was going to look like in a couple months. Fast forward, didn't get that job offer, and as soon as I got the rejection email, which usually it hurt or like sting a little bit, I was at office hours for athletics, and I was sitting next to Liv, and I think this was on my birthday, to be honest. I think that's when I got this email, and I just felt a sense of relief, and I was like, God did not want me to do that, and I just felt so calm and just confident about the decision of coming to Charlotte and moving to Charlotte, and I was like, no matter what time or when we are going to get this email about when we're starting, when we're supposed to be moving, and all of those important details, I was like, it's in God's hands. And I just felt such a like sense of peace that I hadn't felt in months, like insane amount of sense of peace, and that's just the power of God. And like he always has, everything is going to work out in the end, because if you just follow the path that he has laid out for you, everything is going to work out exactly how it's meant to be. And I just needed to like take a step back and stop trying to fix things that didn't need to be fixed. But yeah, that was my spring semester. That was in April. I got that email at the beginning of April. So after that, I just let it all go and stopped applying to jobs. I didn't do anything. I planned a trip to New York City and Chicago with my best friend Carmen, and we like budget ballered this trip. It was so cheap. Our flights were like $150 from Spokane to Chicago, and Chicago to New York they were like $60, and back from New York to Spokane they were so cheap. And so we really just balled out on this trip. It was so much fun. I got insanely sick we took a red eye from Spokane to Chicago, showed up at like 5:30 a.m. Nothing's open in Chicago at 5:30 a.m. if you didn't know that, but I don't know what happened, but usually I can sleep pretty well on planes, which I'm very thankful for, but I did not sleep on this flight. And then I woke up, we took the little train subway thing to our hotel, dropped off our bags. They were like, your room's not going to be ready till 3 o'clock or something. We were like, great, let's go take a walk on the Riverwalk, super early morning, just for something to do. And I was like, Carmen, I think I'm going to puke in the next like 20 minutes. And we sat in this Adirondack chair. I wish I had a photo of this because I just want to go back to it so bad. And it's such a core memory in my head. But I apologize to whatever business this is. But there's an Adirondack chair on the Chicago River somewhere. And they have like tiki boats or something that they take you on tours with. And I yacked my brains out right next to to this Adirondack chair at 6 a.m. Like literally yacked my brains out. And I had nothing in my stomach at this rate. And I just like got this bug somehow after being on a flight for 3 hours or something. And then I spent the entire first day of us being in Chicago very sick. And Carmen is the best friend ever. I love her so much, and I don't know what I would do without her, but she just was such a good trooper. I was like, no, you should go enjoy your time in the city. I felt so bad, and she was like, I'm not going to leave you here sick by yourself in a city that we have both been to, but like we aren't familiar with it, and just like, why would I leave? We booked this trip together, whatever. Just one of like my bestest friends in the entire world. And then she went to the store, got us some crackers and Gatorade, and we just laid on the couch at the Embassy Suites, which is where we're staying in downtown Chicago. And every 20 minutes I would go to the bathroom and throw up. And then we got in our hotel. I fell asleep on the couch of the hotel room, and then every 20 minutes or hour I would go to the bathroom, throw up, and then just slept for literally 20 hours that day. And yeah, that was our first day at Chicago. And then woke up the next day, didn't eat really at all that day, and was totally fine. And we had the best trip ever. We did all of the touristy things. We hit a bunch of baseball games, went up the Sears Tower. That was so cool at sunset, and I'm hoping to do that again this summer. Then we went to New York, which neither of us had been to New York, and it had always been a bucket list item for us. This was a city that was just so overwhelming for me, and just the constant go of New York I had heard, but it's something that you can't really comprehend unless you go there. But yeah, it was so fun. We went to Broadway musical, we went to see Book of Mormon, and we went up the Empire State Building. We just did all the touristy things and didn't even reach probably 15% of the touristy things, but it was so much fun. That was an incredible way to start the summer of just graduating and getting to go on this trip with one of my best friends, and it was just so good. But yeah, that was the beginning of summer. Then throughout the summer, I just got to travel, which is one of my favorite things and something that I am hoping to continue to do in 2025. But yeah, I went to Tampa. I went to visit my family in Washington, like all over Washington. I spent a ton of time with my family, which was so incredibly needed. And then I went and camped out through Glacier National Park with my friend Megan from Charlotte, who flew up. We did a little road trip to Montana, and I got to show her God's country. Big Sky, the Treasure State, all the nicknames for it, and it was just an incredible weekend. And it's really nice to not have service on your phone and be just in the mountains, just taking in everything and enjoying everything that you don't really do on a daily life. You just are constantly consumed by things. So just getting a break from that and being out in nature is always something that I really value. But yeah, that was the summer. And then what else did we do this summer? I feel like that's it, to be honest. And then I moved at the end of July to Charlotte. My dad and I did a 4-day road trip, and he knocked my driving one time through South Dakota, I think. Maybe Montana. No, maybe. I don't remember what state we were in, but it was on like day 2. And he was like, "You're tailgating this car." I was not. He literally was driving the same way I was. And I was like, "You just gained driving privileges for the rest of the trip." So he drove about 70% of the trip, and I drove about 30%. But it was a 38-hour drive. We broke it up, and we stopped and did some sightseeing, different spots. And it was so much fun, and just a lot of really grateful quality time with my dad that I probably wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to spend 3.5 days straight with my father in a car, just chatting and living. And I don't know, my dad always has really awesome advice. Both my parents do, so that's always something that is really nice to just spend time with them. And yeah, so that was my move. And then I moved to Charlotte, started my job. My first couple days of my job were in Atlanta. And then the next week I went to Texas for 4 days. And then I was supposed to go to New Jersey. That trip got canceled. And then I started client work. And then I went to Houston a couple weeks later. And then I went to Virginia a couple weeks later. And then I went home for Thanksgiving. And now we're here, a couple weeks after Thanksgiving. It's currently December 15th, if you're curious. But yeah, that is my year. And this year, like, truly just taught me, the number one lesson that it taught me was just how thankful I am for quality time with the people that I love, and the ability to be all the way across the country right now, but still have time and still talk to my parents and still talk to my siblings. I was on the phone with my oldest sister last night for like an hour, and just like having the opportunity and the people in my life, I'm just so incredibly grateful. And any quality time, I will book any trip to go see these people, and that's just something I'm so grateful that I'm able to do. But the people in my life are just, I don't know what I deserved to have these people in my life, but the older I get, the more thankful and grateful that I am surrounded by such incredible people, and that they are like a huge part of who I am, and it's because of them, and I'm just so grateful. But yeah, the second thing I learned this year is a lot about adulting, which, fun fact, one of my best friends, Kyle, and I are starting a podcast called Grizzlies in the Wild, and just talking about like the post-grad adulting, learning how to adult life. So if you are interested in learning more about that, you should go check it out. Our first episode should be up in the next couple weeks. I'll put a link down to the podcast channels in the description. But yeah, it's just like a big transition. I was living in an apartment and paying rent and all that stuff last year, but it's a huge difference of actually doing all of those things, but in a big city, and insurance and car insurance and buying a car and blah, 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 and all this stuff is just like a big transition that you kind of just get thrown into, and a lot of people are in that position a lot sooner than I am. So mad respect to you guys. But that's been something that I've learned a lot about this year. So if you guys have or want an episode or have any questions that you want me and Kyle to go into, leave them down in the comments below. But yeah, those are probably like two of the greatest lessons. And then the third lesson that I just continue to like fall back on year after year for the past couple years. When I went to UGA, one of the things that I took away is that I was the outsider, and not a lot of people, we all have our friend groups, we all have all these things going on, and like when you see somebody just sitting by themselves or out on their own, like always be the first person to go up to them and sit by them or chat with them or whatever. And the people I have in Charlotte are just some of the best people. Like Kate and her family have been so gracious and like invited me to dinners, and just I spend a lot of time with them and with Kate in general at work, and Megan and Tyler and Praneeth and Lauren, and literally everybody here that I know has just been so gracious and so incredible. And I'm so thankful that the company I work for hired such good people so that I have all these incredible people here, and had those people when I moved here. So that is something that I just think is so powerful, is like being the person to go talk to the person sitting by themselves. Like just go chat with them, figure out their life story. And it goes a long way in the power of connections and human connections and people. Just being good people really does go a long way in society, and I think that we should be doing that a little bit more. But yeah, the other thing I did this year is I started running, and not consistently. That's a goal for 2025, consistently run. But I ran my first 5K in October. Not the greatest time. That I didn't train. I didn't really run at all from October to now, pretty much. But I ran a turkey trot with my sister in Spokane. The elevation difference is insane. So I think that really kicked my butt. And then yesterday I ran an 8K, which is 5 miles. And that physically kicked my butt. I was like cramping so bad at mile 3 and 4, and that was an interesting time, but I have never been good at running, and that's something that I want to change, and it's something that I can change, and that's one of my main goals in 2025. I am shooting out the idea of a Missoula half marathon in June. The elevation difference and training for the elevation difference is obviously not super feasible here, but I am gonna just potentially put it out there. But I want to run a half marathon in 2025. Where that is, I don't know yet, but I'm hoping it's the Missoula Marathon. So hopefully that's an exciting time to go back to Missoula. But yeah, those are just some of like my main takeaways besides everything else that I had already said. Some of my goals for 2025, I guess we can hop into real quick. But I really just want to focus on just keeping growing. And I had a lot of growth this year, but you can never stop growing and becoming better. So that's one of my top goals this year, is just putting myself out there more and being more intentional with myself and my time and the people in my life. And that is probably like the number one goal. The another thing that I want to work on is just my relationship with God and intentionality within going to church, reading my Bible, like forming a stronger Christian community in my life, and just being a lot more intentional with that. I got so much better at this year, and it's just crazy how it impacts your life for a lot more positive ways than you would ever think. So that was something that was really great this year that came into my life through a lot of great people. The church-ins, as we call ourselves, but me, Josie, Kyle, and Ann would go to Anchor Church in Missoula every Sunday mostly, and that was one of my favorite days of the week. And I love the Anchor staff, and they just have really good Jesus is moving through there. So that was an incredible way to just strengthen my faith and my relationship with God. And then moving here, I think we're gonna hopefully we find a church that I just really feel at home at here in 2025. If you have any recommendations in the Charlotte area, let me know. But yeah, I've been going to church and just I haven't loved the place I've been going, but it's been really nice to hear a different story, or different like structure of pastoring. And yeah, so that's another thing I'm gonna work on besides running and all of these other things. But yeah, that is the main things I want to work on. Is just like intentionality in what I'm doing in my life and how I can continue to be better and grow as a person, and continue to put God above and keep working my little butt off. And yeah, just continuing to do that. Another thing, I keep saying blah 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 blah. But one thing I've noticed, like since I would say like in the past year and a half, I am a super outgoing person naturally, but when I get in uncomfortable situations, I cocoon really easily. So I want to just be more intentional as well with just being confident and embracing the confidentness and doing it in an intentional way that's not like unsettling other people. But yeah, I feel like I've lacked that confidence a little bit, and I want to bring it back, and just continue to be the loud, a little bit obnoxious and fun, always wanting to bring people together as much as I can. That's just what I want to work on in 2025. So yes, thank you guys for listening to my little 2024 recap, but I hope you enjoyed this episode of Molly in Missoula, Charlotte edition. And I'm excited to ring in the new year in Spokane back at home with my family and all my friends from home. But yeah, I love you guys, and thank you guys so much for being a small part of my life and just being a creative outlet for me to share different things. And thank you to my family for inspiring this podcast for my class that I had to do something for. So I'll see you guys in 2025, but thank you so much for being a part of the year and following along on a bunch of very core memories of my life so far. So yeah, catch you next time on a different episode about a different thing going on in my life.